All right, here we are once again, another episode of Biters.
Woohoo!
We're actually getting it in on time yet again. We're trying to keep a streak going here.
Yeah, it seems like Wednesdays have worked out well for this.
Is two in a row a streak?
Uh,
It might be for us.
no, I think running around without your clothes on is a streak. I think.
Um,
Or in my house, we call that normal.
I was gonna say, or as you call it, Monday.
That's right. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday, if I'm lucky.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Biters. I'm one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, and with me, as always, is Kirk Manley.
Yep, holding up the geriatric crew. That's my cross to bear.
We are here to discuss episode 5, the penultimate. Go ahead, look it up. Look it up. Episode of Fear the Walking Dead. All right.
So first, we got a couple of some business here. Next week is the finale. What's that? Do you know the title of? Let's see.
Good Lord, we should be prepared with this stuff.
Well, if we were prepared, then these would be really short, and people would not be happy with that.
I could just imagine somebody like Diane or Laura in their car, like yelling at the radio what the title is.
The Good Man
Okay.
is next week's episode. The Good Man, and I can only imagine what that is because we didn't see very many good men this week.
No.
Let's see. So anyway, next week is the finale. So to kind of celebrate that and to do something different, we are going to have our first official. I guess we've done one interview. Now we're going to have one guest show. And
So we're doing like a crossover.
Now we'll do something else, like a live broadcast somewhere, or something. Okay. But yeah, we're going to have on Justin and Kelly from the Walking Naked podcast. Some of you may have got a chance to hear when I guested on their show 2 weeks ago. And I had such a good time, and we wanted to reciprocate and have them on. I want them to meet Jeff and to talk fear with us. So they also threw out, suggested that we do a review of the Walking Dead trailer and do some predictions and stuff of what we think may be coming for season 6 of the main show.
Oh, that'll be good because we're so good at that.
Well, eventually it'll just will be a matter of numbers. We will eventually hit one because it'll just be the odds. You know what I mean? At least that's what I keep telling myself. And then NYCC, we should tell people about.
What is NYCC, Kirk?
Well, it's funny you should ask. New York
sounds like something that you need to get a shot for after late night of partying.
That's right. That is next week.
It's New York Comic Con. I'll fill in the.
I did. I already said that. New York
okay.
Con. It is the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's actually going all week, I guess. But the actual exhibit show is 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Wait,
Jeff,
that's 8th, 9th, 10th. Yeah, 4 days.
That's 4 days. Yep. Last year was 3 days. Well, they've always done like a Thursday preview, but this is a full day on Thursday now. So we hope people that are in the metropolitan area or the tri-state area will come out and support us, the Z-Girl and the Four Tigers. We'll be at booth 1355 in the small press area. Last year and the year before that, that was directly across from Marvel. I haven't seen the map yet this year. I'm not sure. It's the same thing?
Yep.
Same thing, okay.
So basically just go, if you end up going to the Javits Center, just go look for Marvel, and we're right on the corner.
You'll find us.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll have plenty of copies of Z-Girl and the Four Tigers. We'll have a new issue for anyone who's up to date on the book. We will also have prints of my Walking Dead tribute art. So hope to see and would love to meet some of our listeners should they get a chance to come by.
Yeah.
And for some reason, my screen just went blank. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm assuming it fell asleep on me. See, my computer is geriatric as well. All right, what do you got for numbers? How about the numbers? What were the numbers?
So the numbers are basically it won the week for original programming, but it was basically relatively in line with what last week was, 6.6 million viewers. But the thing is we've talked about
that's down from last week, isn't it?
It's slightly up. It's a very slight uptick. It's basically, for all intents and purposes, the same amount of viewers. But it's something that we talked about last week, where I almost don't, when I look at ratings these days, I almost never really regard what they call live plus same day, just because so many people don't watch on the same day as something.
Right.
So if you look at the numbers, so for instance, like the pilot crushed records with 10.1 million viewers, but then if you go out to live plus 7, which is basically DVRing, 7 days later, up to 7 days later, it ends up being just shy of 14 million viewers.
Wow.
It trades down a little bit. Episode 1, it goes down to about 12 and a quarter. I couldn't find the episode 2 number. But again, these are all live plus 7 numbers. So it goes from just shy of 14 to 12 and a quarter. Episode 3 was 11.5 million. So, you get these numbers. So for instance, episode 3, it came out, and I think, it was 2 episodes ago. So I put on the Facebook page about how, I can't remember if it was Entertainment Weekly. Somebody was like, oh, ratings are down. Does this signal, the end of, but 7 million viewers watching it live, and then 7 days later, when you do the live plus 7, it's 11.5 million viewers.
Right.
That's not too shabby. So, we'll see. There's a delay in getting those live plus.
Well,
7
I think
numbers.
the good news in my mind is that if it is a slight uptick this week, or relatively basically the same, then the slide down has stopped. In other words, of course, you're going to get the astronomical first numbers,
right?
Because of the success of the main show, all of the marketing and hype about this show, everybody wanted to see, and then you go the following week, you're going to get slide the next couple of weeks. But what you don't want to see happen is a decent slide every single week, and for that to be on par with last week means maybe we've that sliding is kind of you've gotten down to your core viewers now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Although my guess is that there'll be an uptick for the finale.
Yeah, I think so too. I think people are going to want to see, even if they've tuned out for a couple episodes because they thought it had slowed down.
Right.
They're going to want to see where this goes, for this finale. So, next week will be the 6th and final episode of this season, and then they've got a 15 episode season 2 coming next year. So,
and then we got some definitive information on the zombie airplane story,
right?
Which is now going to be 16 episodes, I think, that are roughly a minute or a half each.
Right.
They're going to broadcast them during commercials of the main show, but then they're going to also collect them all online.
Mm-hmm.
So if you miss it in the main show, it'll be online, and then eventually they'll have all 16 up there. But that there was also confirmation about the fact that a character will go from that story into the second season of Fear the Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. Although if that plane crashes, I don't see how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to be a zombie. That's what these shows need. One of these shows needs to have a reoccurring zombie. Kind of like in Ramiro's Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Remember what was his name? The zombie had a name. I can't remember what it was. They had him locked down in the medical prison or whatever, and they were doing all sorts of experiments trying to get him to teach him to do things.
Oh,
and stuff.
right, yep.
Yeah. Bub, I think was his name. I'm not sure, but I think that was his name. Anyway, I want to backtrack a minute and just retouch a conversation we had about last week's episode before we get into this week's episode. So not fade away. Last week, we were a little bit perplexed about what the title could mean, and that kept gnawing on my head. And boy, there's an image. Speaking, I guess that's an appropriate zombie image, but so I kept thinking about it, and then I rewatched the episode with my daughter because she hadn't been able to see it yet, and so during the week I rewatched it with her, and when the scene came on with Alicia doing the self-tattooing, all of a sudden I got this I kind of like it connected some things for me. She's trying to make permanent that tattoo that he drew on her that's fading away. And she's doing that because she wants to confirm or assert or not let her feelings for him and her love for him and her, wishing that he's still alive and there and everything else, her connection to him is not fade away. So she does. So she makes that move, or does that tattoo. And I think there were a lot of beats throughout that episode that were about that, and that we really were getting two messages about the world that we're learning about, or the new paradigm here. One was what we talked about with fear the walking dead being really fear the living. Which we talked about with when Daniel has his whole speech, and this idea that people do evil because they're of fear, and that the whole speech that Rick had, just to reiterate that again, that the walking dead are now the living, so i.e. fear the living. But the other message, I think, is that the other show has showed us this, the main show has showed us this time and time again, that the key to survival in this new world, the best tool or weapon really to survival and to fight this apocalypse is to maintain a hold on your humanity, to keep your connection to people, to not lose your humanity, or else you do become a Negan or a governor, or you become enfranchised from your group and lose the protection of them and get killed by the zombies. So as much as this world and the fear and all this stuff causes people's connection to each other to fade, you have to struggle to fight to keep that in order to survive and make it. And that we saw in this episode, Chris and his father, Travis, their relationship is really becoming disconnected. He's not paying attention to him. He's not listening to him. Travis and Maddie, even though they're still making, having relations in the truck, they're about as far apart as, the Grand Canyon, you know what I mean? Both in terms of emotions and everything else. They're totally detached from each other. And I just think that, that was the second message. And that was where the title comes from. Don't let this crisis cause you to your connection to humanity and people and love and everything else fade. Because if that fades, then you either die or you become evil. So that's just that was just a little extra thought I had.
Okay.
And from the look on your face, you're like, dude, you like are lost.
Yeah, I think it's a reach. And the reason why is because, and I think it ties back to the big the fatal flaw that I have with this show, is that we're seeing such a small, we're seeing just this family, right? And we're just seeing their for all intents and purposes, they're a small unit that just moves around. We don't see their interaction with the neighbors. We don't get to see interactions with other people. We don't see, let's say like I'd said, I think I might have mentioned it on, on a Facebook posting about how, let's ratchet up the tension. Let's ratchet up the stakes. When they were leaving the house and they were going to go into the desert, Travis and, a couple people, they go ahead, but then Maddie stops and she goes back to save the neighbor, and then the army happens to intervene at that point, and now they're spread out, they're split. And now we get, a situation like that where we can see them interact with people. I still don't understand this fear and dread that this family has, Travis and crew, that they have they can't understand everything that's going on. Because they're still, look what they've seen so far. They saw the riot outside the barbershop, right? But they didn't see the guys getting up and the cops eating eating other people, and they didn't see all that stuff. All they saw was, oh, it's L.A. on Saturday night again, riots. That's all they saw. The closest thing that they've gotten is Susan next door, right? Susan, next door. That even when Nick says she's not sick, she's dead. No one was just like, no one really didn't seem to really take that seriously. Kind of like just gave her like a queer look. So much so that when Travis is walking by in the morning and Susan's still banging up against the fence, he's like, "Morning, Susan." It's kind of a joke. So there's no, and even Maddie going outside the fence. Yeah, she saw all this stuff, but what did she really see? What she really saw, she didn't see zombies, or, the Z word doesn't exist in this universe, right. So I get that. But she didn't see the dead coming back to life. No. She saw the military putting rounds in everybody, and that's what she saw. So this fear, and I'm going to back up to Alicia. Alicia putting that thing on her, tattooing herself, and what was her boyfriend's name? Whatever. I just remember him from The Wire.
Was it Melvin? No.
I don't think it was Melvin.
No.
I don't think they've used that name since like 1804. But even that, it was like he was sick, right? And yeah, he had a bite or he had something on him, but still, I mean, they gave him up for dead and ran away from that place, but they've not seen the ramifications. So all this stuff is going on, but no one's really seen people turn. They've not seen, there's no fear, there's no horror. So, and I'm not going to say that your theory is incorrect. It doesn't ring with me just because there's such a, an insular group, and basically they're living this story is them in a vacuum,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well,
I give you, you put a lot of words together, so I give you, A for effort.
Well, I agree with everything you said, but I don't think that neither negates nor supports what I'm saying. I agree with you, but I think that within the context of that, the fact that we're with this particular family, they haven't really seen that much or whatever. The episode was trying to show us how this situation that's going on with them is pulling them apart emotionally, and it's dividing them, and it's making their connections to each other fade away, and
okay.
that becomes a weakness in this world.
Was this the episode? This was the episode? Sorry, but this was the episode where with the clock, right? Where Alicia comes in and she yells at both of them.
Correct.
Because they're
correct.
Okay, yeah.
Correct. And again, that's another example. There they are, right off, fighting with each other.
Right.
In the midst of this, instead of trying to connect and work together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the message being, if you allow yourself your connection to people fade away, then you lose your humanity, and either of two things happen: you become evil and do horrible things, or you die. And I think that's been a message in the main series. You know what I mean? We've seen that, that the key to Rick's success has been his kind of walking this tightrope between being ruthless and being connected and caring for people and going back to rescue people. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? And here you got the scenario in that episode where you've got people that are calling for help, mm-hmm. and yet they don't do anything. Partly because they can't agree on what they're seeing because they're not listening to each other.
Right.
And then when they do finally see it, it's too late. They've in fact doomed those people because they didn't think about what could be happening. Why would that be happening? And if I tell the soldiers, maybe they're going to go out and do something about that. You know what I mean? And that's what ends up happening. So, that's just my read on it.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about Cobalt here, episode 5. What'd you think? Give us what were your goods on it? Give us the goods.
I got to tell you, this was a hot mess for me. Probably my least favorite episode.
Wow.
Yep.
I was not expecting that.
And I'll tell you. You're now filling my screen, and I can't take you being that big, so I gotta shrink it down. Hold on, I hit a wrong button. Yeah, and I think it's because not only of flaws that I saw in this episode, and the way it was written, and the way it was directed, and everything else, but also because of where this episode went after last episode, because I thought last episode was so great, and I thought we were starting to see such development and such depth to the portrayals, and then I just feel like so many characters just slid backwards, and not in an interesting way, not in a way that was like believable, more just like, wait a minute, didn't last episode happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, but we'll get into it when we get into the details. I thought Laura Willie Swink wrote in, and she had an interesting theory that, and I think another person in the letters we'll read at the end here mentioned as well. It hadn't occurred to me, but maybe the commander. I'll get to my goods, but this is just something I saw from her note. I wanted to bring it up. The commander was the victim of a mutiny. And I thought that was interesting, right? Because he comes back and says, look, he's not coming out.
Oh, he totally got fragged. Oh,
right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. And because as soon as they get back to the Jeep, they're like, all right, now I'm splitting to go find my family.
Yeah.
So plus now that we know also what cobalt means, probably none of those guys wanted to be a part of what was going to happen. They're probably like, the last thing I want to do in all of this now is go kill a bunch of innocent people. So I'm getting out of here. you know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of interesting. I guess if that is what happened, I would say that's good. Although that was kind of a quick end to the first villain. You know what I mean?
Right.
Plus, we don't even get to see it. You know, I mean, I don't know. I would say my only real good in this episode was the final 10 to 12 minutes. Just again, like last week, I noticed too that the writer was different on this episode. The writer for last week was Megan Oppenheimer, and the writer this week was David Weiner, but the director was the same, Kari Skogland. And it's interesting because it did have a similar feel in the way that it was directed. And again, the whole last segment was like, it wasn't really a slow build to it. It was more like kind of the slow episode and then 10, 15 minutes of like a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? But I'd say that the last part was my favorite. I thought all the scenes with Liza and the doctor were powerful. I enjoyed that. I thought the Griselda, ranting was haunting, her whole thing about the devil's face. And it was actually more insightful than what I'll talk about later when we actually see Danielle do. It was more kind of scary to hear it coming out of her feverish babble. You know what I mean? The look of that facility, at least the medical part, was horrific. And I thought really well done. I mean, that was like a haunted, scary mansion. It was like out of a slasher movie, Liza's having to put the bolt gun to Griselda's head. That was so powerful. And to me was like that character that really grew in that episode. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden she's starting to really see this world for what it is now, and what has to be done and how to handle it. And I think the doctor might end up being a good guy if she lives. I kind of hope she does, but I suspect she's going to die next week. We haven't had a lot of deaths in this series, and I suspect we're going to get a bunch of them in the final. But that really, and then I have an ugly, which was a good ugly. It also rotates or takes place at that last segment, but I'll get to that at the end. But that was my goods. What do you got?
I really like the. Overall, I agree with you. I thought this was it was one of those episodes where when you get done with it, you're like, what the hell is what are you trying to do with this show? Like, what is the show supposed to be about?
I know.
The whole torture scene with Ruben Blades, and now that we figure out basically that he wasn't the victim of the Salvadoran War, that he was on the other side,
right?
He was the torturer. It just, I don't know. There was just the thing is that the name of the show is Fear the Walking Dead, but yet we spent so much of this episode basically and Ruben Blades is great, and I'm not a prude to that kind of action or what was going on, but it doesn't advance this storyline. It was like Fear the Walking Dead is going down this pathway, and all of a sudden we just took a tangent on this episode which I didn't think needed to be. But so my goods weren't great. There weren't a lot of them. But the teaser, the opening with this new guy, Coleman Domingo, who plays Victor Strand.
Right.
Holy cow! Like, I know where you found this guy. He's a theater actor, and he was in Selma, but it was like I'm just sitting there watching that scene, going, "Where'd you find this guy? This guy is awesome. Your favorite character on the show, you know?"
Yeah, that was my ugly. He's my ugly.
Oh my God, he was fantastic. Just that silver-tongued. He reeked of Stringer Bell, Idris Elba, Stringer Bell in The Wire, you know?
Yeah.
And so when he's with and first of all, thank God they pulled Doug out of that cage, because really, he's one of the most annoying characters on that show. I still don't know what the hell he's crying about. Do you? He's
having a nervous breakdown.
Oh my!
I would expect in that scenario there would be every third person would be like Doug.
Exactly. So, so Strand sits there and gives his little monologue, and Doug is weeping and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "You got a picture of her?" And he takes the picture. I did not see the conversation going in that direction at all, where he's just like,
it's brutal.
She takes care of herself. Yeah, she'll find a guy who will treat her right, or, whatever. Oh my God, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then I love the line when he looks at Nick, and, Nick says, Nick's like, "Well, I'm an addict," and Strand goes, "Don't sell yourself short. You're a heroin addict."
Yeah. He says, "You're a heroin addict. That's the cream of the crop. Don't sell yourself short." I like too when they come into that one of the scenes and it's focused on him, and Nick is puking in the background, and he goes, "And I didn't think they would be able to find something to cover the smell of
urine." That was awesome. Right. I mean, the few scenes that he was in, the few moments that he had, Coleman Domingo stole that show. Let's see. The other good I liked, something else I liked. I liked the line, Ruben Blades. Seriously, if there was somebody I would not want torturing me, Ruben Blades would be probably on the top 10 list. I like the line when everybody started getting squirrely around him, especially Maddie, and she's like, "Don't hurt him." And he just looks back at her and he says, "So which is it? You don't want him hurt, or you don't want to know?" And she's kind of looks at him like, and he's kind of like, "Exactly." And then, I thought that was a great line.
Yeah. Let me interrupt for a minute. Another great character that only had a little bit of time, but like it very much like Strand, but in my mind just captured were the two best performances, Strand and was the captain. I think he was a captain, the guy who in the beginning is telling, keeping the guy from the soldier from getting the girl. He's like, "You better do, you better do something about this, or I'm going to do it, better take care of your girlfriend, or I'm going to do something about her because she's out of line." Remember the very beginning?
Yeah.
And then he has a conversation with the commander at one point where he's like, "We've been up for 50 hours and you're sending us back."
He's a sergeant.
Right. And then when it's all goes down, he's like, "I'm getting out of here and I'm going to find my family in San Diego." I want to see that series. I want to see him and one or two of his buddies in a Humvee trying to get back to San Diego. Yeah. That would be an awesome
There you
series.
go. Yeah.
Because that guy he was like, with just a few minutes I saw him online, I was like, on screen, I was like, that character's gripping. You know what I mean? Just like same with Strand. He wasn't on very long, but I was like, that guy's freaking gripping.
Oh my gosh. And that's the thing is, like, you've written these characters that all of a sudden, going through the internet and just looking, Coleman Domingo, like everybody's just raving about like what, how great that guy was. And man, is this guy a sociopath? There's more questions going on about him for how long was he on screen for?
Yeah.
Compared to
30
nobody
seconds.
cares about like all, everybody else. No, I agree. That would be good to what happens with the soldier. And again, I think that's just our curiosity for, okay, you started this epidemic, or this epidemic has started. Well, let's see. Let's see where it's going, and let's ride shotgun as civilization is winding down.
Plus wanting action.
Well, yeah, there's
like no action in this. Right. I mean, I'm sorry, but that fight scene at the building,
lame.
That was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic.
Someone's
They
got
pull
to.
up to this building, smoke's coming out. They run inside. You don't see any zombies. A couple zombies fall out of a window. You hear a bunch of screaming, some gunshots. Guy comes out, throws a grenade in, blows up
He
a
didn't
zombie.
throw
Then
a
they.
grenade. He like
I know. It was like it was a hot potato or something.
There's a meme going around of him like just kind of like like vomiting this thing 2 feet. Yeah.
Plus, it's like what? No zombies on the streets, but inside this building, there's 100 of them. I don't get it. You know what I mean? It's just.
So I actually liked so the scene when I liked Alicia, probably the most I've liked her in the entire series so far. The scene where Chris, when Chris is sitting on the car and
Right.
she comes down on the bike and she's like, I own this street, or she goes off in her little. I thought she was great, and I was like, she's playful and that's cute, and then when they go to the house and they start just trashing the place, and they put on the people's clothes and they get a little drunk and do what they do. I actually thought that for the first time they were acting like teenagers. That they were like acting their age. Wouldn't you do the same thing? I mean, you're like,
I don't disagree with you, but I disagree with what they did with the character based on everything prior to that with the character. I agree with what you're saying.
Chris
if she had been portrayed, Alicia, primarily Alicia. I mean, she was being portrayed, in my mind, the last couple episodes as kind of one of the people who actually kind of was clued in, who kind of realized we're not in a normal world anymore, that we got to, go and pick up our supplies and make sure we, do that. And, we got to stop fighting about stupid stuff. And, I mean, she seemed much more clued in to the reality of what was going on. And then now this episode, she's like dreamy teenager who's like goofy and all of a sudden having this like emotional like dread about the fact that she's not going to grow up and wear a dress and be an adult and have a house, and you know what I mean, she's worrying about her future clearly, by looking in the mirror, and I'll probably never get a chance to dress like this ever and be like this because the world is ending, and all of that's fine, but in the context of the storyline where she was and what she's, I didn't buy it. To me it was a huge slide backwards. Okay. I thought for the character, plus what the hell was she dressed in? The shorts were like so freaking short. And then she's got on a flannel long sleeve shirt or jacket wrapped around her waist, but she's wearing a jacket on the coat. So she's like, what, got 2 jackets? It was just like, it was just crazy.
Yeah. It's, well, apparently, as we learned in episode 1, she's smart enough to basically teach a math class. So maybe she's just in high school. So maybe she's just eccentric like that. I was kind of creeped out, even though it's perfectly legit if it did. But the whole Chris kind of looking at her up the stairs.
Well,
I was kind of creeped out by it.
I actually kind of liked the fact that he was like intimidated by that. Like he was, whoa, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Should I look? Should I not look? Is that wrong? Is it right? What's the right thing to do here? I better just turn around and run.
And then the look on her face, she was like, oh yeah, still got it.
You should be looking. You should be looking.
So, wow, is that all I got for good? I think that might be all I got for good.
So we're pretty much in agreement on that.
Yeah, Liza at the end when she puts Griselda down, when they pull that thing out. So it was last episode, right? When did they do the rendition? Last episode or this episode? Or because there's the scene where she's.
What do you mean the rendition? You mean when they took them?
Yeah.
That was last week.
Okay, so
the end of last week.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out at first. Remember when they wheel the body in and she looks at it, and then the other doctor comes over and goes, "This one's been." And then that guy comes over with a device. I thought it was like a flamethrower. I was like, "No, you're not going to light that thing up." And it, so I was trying to figure out what that device was, and then later on we discover it's
right.
Which anytime you pull that weapon out, so that it's not a weapon, but it's a device used to to put cattle and livestock down.
Right, it's a tool. Oh, okay, yeah. I thought it was like a nail gun.
No, there's a pneumatic,
Right.
there's a bolt that comes out and just, but it's the same thing. Every time I see that, I can't see something like that without thinking of Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men, because
I never saw that movie.
oh man, you're
I
missing
know.
out. But yeah, that's what the assassin uses in that one.
Ugh.
But yeah, Liza again. She's a great actress, and I liked her. I agree with you. I liked her scenes with Griselda. And
It's sad because it seems like some of the best performances through the whole season so far have been in small little tiny segments of small characters, with a small amount to work with.
Mhm.
The big scenes, the long, dialogues, have been the characters that just are, like Travis and even Maddie to some degree. They're just not.
Yeah.
It's not happening. I mean, Nick in the pilot, but they just haven't gone back to him.
Oh my gosh,
much at all.
Not at all.
I mean, they had this diamond in the rough in that opening pilot with him. Everybody ended up going, we want lots more Nick. And we got what? Nothing.
Right.
We got a little pinch here, a little pinch there, that's it. So I don't know. I mean, they put all the money or all the time and focus on Maddie and Travis. And it just seems like they keep beating the same beat with the two of them.
Right.
And because I'm going to get to my bads now, I guess, but one of my bads is just like after what he saw on the roof, he like goes and talks to the commander again, and then wants to go along with them on a ride down to see the people. And it's like he doesn't. It's like the whole thing on the roof didn't happen.
Right. And exactly. So and.
And I said last week, I've been okay with the fact that he kind of has been wishy-washy and pretty much kind of all Mr. Optimistic. But after that scene, he now should have changed, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that I found really frustrating. And it's kind of the same thing with Madison too, but I'll get into more of that. But my first bad was the torture scene. You brought it up a little. You talked about it a little bit. I'm getting so tired of torture on TV shows. Mm. I mean, it's like 24, The Walking Dead. We tried to watch Arrow during the season last week, and we picked not last week, but last season. And we turned it on, and it was the one where he's like, I don't know if it's the opener or what, and he's like, got to torture this guy in his flashback. I don't know, he's like stick arrows in him and stuff, and I was like, what the hell? And it just seems like torture is like, ever since 9/11, it just seems like that's become so prominent in our media. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, I get all psychological, but I think it's like we're trying to work out some sort of justification or guilt about the fact that we got on board with torture after 9/11. You know what I mean? It's like it's in everything, and it doesn't work. The bottom line is it doesn't work. Now, Walking Dead season 2, you have this whole conflict with the people in the group about what to do with their prisoner. And you have Dale, who's like, you guys are losing your minds. You know what I mean? To even consider killing him or torturing him. What are you, crazy? And then other people and you're working it out. In this episode, it was just like kind of matter of fact. And we're not even that deep into the apocalypse. You know what I mean?
Well, and just exactly. And the thing to piggyback on that is, I don't have a problem with torture. But I agree with you that I think it's overused, especially in this case where you went from A to D, where D is torture. You immediately made that jump from A to D. First of all, let's bring the soldier. Let's lure the soldier in, and we'll tie him to a chair.
Right.
Okay.
Plus, the guy says to him, "I'll tell you whatever you want to know."
Exactly. Right from the bat, he's like, I love Ophelia, which I found that ridiculous. Like, it's been 9 days, dude. But
hey, love is love, man.
Apparently,
when that Cupid arrow hits, man, it hits.
But you've got a young soldier who's basically like, dude, I love her. I'll do it. She means the world to me. Blah blah blah. And he's already spouting off at the mouth.
Right.
Like why? Okay, so then we need to go to that next step.
And then Travis comes in, and Travis is like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Travis is going to be the Dale. Travis is going to be the Dale. He's going to be our conscience. He's going to be the one to say, this is absolutely insane. You guys are freaking lost your mind. Maybe take a swing at Daniel. You know what I mean? And he walks in and he says, the worst thing he says is tell me you didn't know about this. Tell me you didn't know about this. And then Daniel steps in and says, well, we've learned what cobalt is, and this is it. And then it's like, oh, well, in that case, this is a great idea. You know what I mean? It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just really upset me. Let's see. I covered all that. I talked about Travis right back to the Army, trying to work within the system again. The show is predictable, and it seems to be getting more predictable by the episode. Maddie had one thing to do in that episode, right? Don't let Ophelia go downstairs. Mm-hmm. You knew she was, right? You knew that was going to happen, and that's what happened. It's like, I mean, granted, it was implied that she was kind of passed out, probably from drinking booze. This whole thing with, the alcoholism, and that she's going on the bottle and nodding and stuff like that, and therefore that's going to be a problem, because it's going to, keep her from doing the right thing. And but to me, it was like you could see it coming a mile away. And then, gee, I wonder, you think they're going to let all those zombies out of the arena in the finale? Gee, I wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's like everything's telegraphed, There's also they're getting a little heavy-handed with the nods to the main show. Strand makes this whole comment about the wolf at the door, the wolves at the door, like the main. I mean, duh. And then you've got the doors chained shut, just like in the hospital. It's like it's too on the nose. You know what I mean? I talked about Alicia and what I thought was a backslide. Why the heck does the commander want Travis to shoot the zombie?
Right.
What the hell does he care about what this guy thinks, feels about the zombies, knows about what? Granted, we know he's a mental case. We didn't need another example of that. He was a mental case when he was yelling at his troops in the beginning. We saw the punched soldier who wanted to, he said, I lost my, I forgot what he said, my patriotism or something. Right. And for a minute, clearly these guys, he's kept them out for 50 hours without sleep. He's obviously a tyrant. We didn't need to see him do this to Travis. It was like, again, seemed like the only point of that was so that we could see again that Travis has an issue with pulling a trigger on a gun.
Right.
We've got that. I got it. Clear. He doesn't like guns. Okay. Maybe it's from his past. Maybe he's a pacifist. Who knows? We didn't need to see it again.
Right.
Did not see a point of it. You know what I mean? And it just, I don't know. I thought that was lazy writing. Plus, he brags about the fact that they have 84 zombie kills. Mm-hmm. Let's see. We talked last week about the fact there were 4 million people in LA that probably didn't get evacuated. Or at least a couple million, 4 million that were in the city, and then probably at least a couple million that didn't get evac'd. So that's an awful lot of zombies. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like they have 84. I mean, I think Carl had that by the end of season 2. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? It was like they were making this statement. All right, let's talk about how proud they are about how many they've killed, because we want to show how they're, to them it's like some sort of sport or something. Well, then say, 500.
Right.
Plus that tells us there's a lot of zombies out there. 84 sounds like you got, a cold. Right. You know what I mean? Not a zombie infection. So, yeah, those were my bads. I'm really disappointed with this episode.
Yeah, right from the beginning in the first act, when Ophelia's out and she's yelling at the soldiers and she's trying to get attention, and she yells up. I think she says to somebody in a window, she's like, "Why are you hiding?" And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. Why are you hiding? You saw the military coming in the middle of the night. They've got your neighborhood surrounded. No one's telling you anything. This should be, you guys are a legit mob. Like, right. You should not be hiding in your homes, I also, again, lazy writing, people not paying attention, or maybe they're sending a message, but I just don't get it. Why is the LT, the lieutenant, why is he letting a corporal handle this situation, diffuse the situation? So a corporal, if you're not savvy to military, corporal is an enlisted rank, an enlisted rate. So if Ophelia's coming up and she's basically pounding the gate and raising a stink, you don't send somebody at the bottom end of the totem pole to go someone, a lower authority figure, to deal with that. The lieutenant goes to step up, and then his whole thing is, well, you need to do something about this or I'll do something. No, that's not how it works. Now, I don't know if they're trying to show dysfunction in the...
Yeah, I think they were trying to show, one, dysfunction, two, that they were all kind of fried and at wit's end, and three, that this guy cares so much about Ophelia and that he's willing to like put himself in front of this commander.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like, if the lieutenant steps up and is like, I'll deal with this, or I mean, what he should have done, based on precedent that's already been set, is that send two guys over there, handcuff her, drag her off because she's making noise, right?
Exactly.
And then Sean Hatosi jumps in and he goes, no, hold on, I got it. And then he deals with the situation and the ramifications. Dude, that scene would have played so much better. As it plays
First
now.
of all, what are they all freaking out about? What, she's throwing some bottles?
Yeah, like, you're on the other side.
Like,
of the
so
fence.
what?
Yeah.
Second of all, where the hell other side of the fence was she? I don't understand that. Who's on what side of what fence? Was she inside the compound and they were outside the compound?
That's what I took, yeah.
Oh, okay. To me, it looked like maybe there was gates inside the compound.
But then...
Gates with gates, I don't know.
But then, even worse than that, is the fact that you've got this again, this enlisted guy, this enlisted kid, who's basically banging a quote-unquote native. He's clearly with... There's no way you'd allow that to happen. I mean,
especially not in this situation.
Oh my Lord, no, absolutely not. So, I mean, the whole thing is just, again, I just chalk it up to bad writing, and I chalk it up to bad cliche writing. It's like they're falling back on tropes and cliches that are just easy to go along with. I still do not like Travis with his kid Chris. Yeah, I don't care how great Maddie gives it to you in the in a truck, or how good it is. Chris is still your blood, and until you show me something in this narrative that Chris has done something to, he's a drug dealer, he's a banger, he's whatever, he's done something to lose the love, respect, trust of his dad. The fact remains that Chris is his dad's kid, and when you have arguments that you get caught in this triangle between the new woman and the son and you, dude, it's always, I'm sorry, but for me, I would think that it's always, Maddie, hold on a second, just hold on, this is my son and I'm going to deal with this. And that whole thing about him, all right, now go and apologize.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but look at Chris walked away.
No, that was awesome.
That was pretty funny. That was very realistic. I think they're trying to show that this is a dysfunctional family. That this is a dysfunctional family that had issues going on anyway. And now they're in this apocalypse, and those are becoming even more accentuated and causing even more rifts. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. That makes for interesting drama. My problem is that I don't care about any of them. I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm waiting for one of them to be like if Travis, one, had become kind of a changed person after seeing what he saw on the roof, and then two, started to become the moral authority or the moral voice when confronting Daniel about the torture, I would have been like, you know what, Travis maybe is my guy. You know what I mean? In the beginning, Maddie was my girl. You know what I mean? Because she was kind of like, she saw things for what it is. She fought to survive from the principal. She's kind of grabbing her son and trying to straighten him out. She take charge. I was like, yeah, okay, she's my girl. But now she's all a mess, and it's like there's no one to grab onto and ride with this show. There's no Rick. There's no Glenn.
Well, and that's a great question. Is whose show is this?
It's not clear yet. Not clear yet. Maybe that's purposeful.
And from episode 1, it was always, there was that kind of leaning towards Maddie, that Maddie it's her show. She's going to be the female Rick of this show, right? And that's fine. But in the past couple episodes, that hasn't materialized. Like, it's not capitalized. And I think it's something that you said earlier, where, especially around Nick, where he started off with a bang. Wow, that's the one to watch, and then whimpers off. I mean, look, here we are. The second to last episode, and what are the two characters that we actually probably really care the most about? Strand, who we just met, and maybe Ruben Blades, who just because he's interesting. Well, and Liza too.
And I like that captain. I want to ride that Humvee to San Diego.
A minor character. So we're more interested in like minor characters.
Yeah, I would say probably Liza actually at this point. She seemed to be the one most level-headed back at the house.
Well, she's also the one. She's also, if you look at all the characters, and pretty much ever since she's been on the show, because I'm thinking about the time when they went by the hospital, and the hospital was just chaos, and then that person was walking out, and the cop shot her 75 times, and Liza was the only one who had a look on her face like, what the F is going on here? Like, this is not normal. And she's the only one who, through every scene that she's been in, where she's been, in the thick of it, she's the only one who's acting normal. Acting as you would be in a situation.
Well, like that. as you would want to be, as you would want somebody to be. Yeah, absolutely. Right. She's responding to this situation.
Right. That's the word.
She's not burying herself in her booze or her drug addiction. She's not relying on the military. She's not turning to them and looking for them to do everything like Travis is. She's taking the bull by the horns. She's saving lives. She's trying to help people. She's even cutting corners, doing questionable things, taking morphine from this person to give to that person because she had to make a moral decision about who was suffering more and who needed more help. You know what I mean? Trying to get treatment for people and everything else. So yeah. But
especially in this episode, and when she's in this makeshift hospital and she's looking around, it's like, that doctor comes over and says, well, I think that's a bite mark. That person's been bit. Leave it. And the look on her faces, on Liza's face is, wait, what? Wait, what just happened?
No one briefed her.
Right. And then when she's at Griselda's side and all the crazy stuff that comes out of Griselda's mouth, and then at the end, it's just the look on her face. It's almost like she can't comprehend what's going on. Life is just moving too fast at this time for her. And credit the actress, credit the writers, I guess, for what they're doing, at least for that character, that she's one of the most believable characters on that show. Let's see. I totally think when the soldiers came out of that building, they totally fragged Moyers. I'm annoyed that this episode is, again, more about the jerk-off military and their draconian and fascist ways than it is about what's going on. So Cobalt is the evacuation of the air of the town and the humane termination of the citizens. Okay.
Before you wait a minute, because you're going to make a point here. So before you do, because you just brought up the whole fascist military thing again, and I just 9 days, and our entire military system and our National Guard system has fallen apart in 9 days.
Well, no, it was 9 days last episode. We might be at 10 now.
well, then it's completely believable. Sorry, my bad. I mean, it's just crazy, Right. I mean, when you think of the military network and the National Guard network that is across the entire United States, and supposedly they put up that fence in a couple days and everything. I just find it hard to believe that, that it would be already ragtag, every man for himself kind of thing, and especially when we're not seeing any of that happen.
Yeah, where are the people who are okay? So this is this is a zone that's been set up. It's fenced and it's being patrolled. Where are people? Where are the citizens in this area going? Okay, we don't have electricity. We don't have the internet. Let's go through the fence. I know where there's a library down there. Let's go to the library. See if the internet's up. Like no one's doing all that stuff.
It's like they set out to do this version or this spinoff because they wanted to show what an urban situation would be, but they didn't have the money to do it because it seems like the story's being trimmed around keeping the amount of extras and zombies and action on the scene really, really limited, and keeping the whole thing focused on this family so that we're not actually seeing. So then why do this? Why pick this? Why not pick something in rural Utah, or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Where you could just focus on this family, you know what I mean?
So one of the problems I have with Cobalt is and we started to see the breakdown in the beginning. Again, this is just the inconsistency, I think, of the writing on the show, is that we see in the beginning, we see how there's the conflict. The corporal telling the lieutenant, "Look, my boys have been up for 50 hours straight, and they've got issues, and the two soldiers getting into it with each other, like this isn't right, and blah blah blah." Okay, so it's starting to fracture. So what would make it more interesting is that, okay, if you know what Cobalt is, holy crap, are you serious? At 0900 tomorrow morning, this whole place is like, everybody here is gone. If Sean Hatosi, I can't remember what his character's name is, if he cared so much about Ophelia, it should have been like, pull her aside and say, look, this is what's going down tomorrow. We've got to get you out of here. Now you get like this conflict. Maybe there's some military hardliners. At the end we see Chris and Ophelia hiding from the Humvees because we thought they were on patrol. But what if those Humvees like see them, pull over to the side? Oh my gosh, they're going to get in trouble because they're out. I don't know. Was there a curfew? We don't even know what they're what the
supposedly there's a curfew after dark.
But what if they come out, the soldiers come out and are like, hey, you guys got to get out of here. Come with us. We'll take you outside the fence. What if there's that? Then that would show, too, that, okay, the structure of the military is breaking down. And these guys, again, it goes back to the point I made last week. These are American citizens. If this was Afghanistan or Iraq, totally understand that it's like, oh, you guys are on your own. We're out of here. But this is domestic soil. These guys are going to, be there for us. So yeah, I had a big issue with that. The other issue I had,
the reason is the reason they didn't do that is because they wanted to have this opportunity to show Daniel do the torture.
Right.
Because in case we didn't get the idea that he's a dark, potentially fractured, evil, potentially bad guy, maybe good guy, we don't know, which makes him really interesting. Now we just know he's this evil, rotten bastard, who tortures people. And it's like, oh boy, there goes that whole, yeah.
But the problem is that by doing Cobalt, by saying that you're basically everybody's labeled for extinction. Well, now you've undercut the entire purpose for, why'd you spend all the time fortifying that location and putting up the fence? Why take people away in the middle of the night? Like, why run your renditions? Like, what? You just undercut everything. It's no different than the street over where Maddie goes to, where basically you just had a kill squad walking through, is what it looked like, just taking people out. So it confused me what was going on there. And at this point, at the fifth of six episodes, we should be like, I would feel that we should be at the point where we've been riding shotgun as civilization is starting to crumble. Everything that we know is coming apart, and it is horrific. I mean, it should be so bad that Monday morning comes and we're talking about, oh my gosh, did you watch Fear the Walking Dead last night? What if that actually happened in my neighborhood? It should be real. It should be, and it doesn't feel that way at all. I think I responded to somebody's Facebook post that's the one component that's missing, for me at least, is fear. There's no fear here. There's just people just said, oh, okay, well, that's what this is going to be. Okay, but they don't really know what this is going to be or what, quote unquote, this is. And it's more of a people drama. And I get that your mandate when you create the show is, again, we don't want to show zombies. We don't want to use the Z word, and we don't do all this. But, it's almost like they tried to almost recreate The Walking Dead in the prequel when I don't think that's exactly what we were looking for. We were looking for, give us a prequel that kind of shows us how all this took off and how all this started. Let's watch everything. I think, again, what I posted was that in Walking Dead, we open up with Rick coming out of the hospital and everything has already gone to hell.
Right.
Which is great. You're in the thick of it and, roll camera forward. But we want to see, okay, how did we started at point C, take us back to point A and B and tell us how we got to there. And they're not doing that. It's almost like they're doing the same thing again, starting at point C in the past and rolling forward, which there's not a fear there. There's not, it's not gripping. It's not keeping me on the edge of my seat. So, and
I agree.
And like you said, for 2 episodes now, the focus has been on the military and the evil that men do. And like, that's not, you've deviated from the premise of the show. And that's what's frustrating for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I get upset and frustrated when there's not as much attention paid consistently to the art of it either. For me, a lot of it is, I love the cinematography. I raved last week about the music, about the sound, about like the symbolism of the use of the chimes. And what they represented, and they always chimed when Nick was involved, and it was just all this really cool visual stuff going on. Plus, you had a story that started at one point in the beginning. He's jogging on the road. He comes in. Hey, they're going to get this all sorted, and they're fighting with each other. But he's here and she's there. And then by the end of the episode, he's like, mind is blown. He's watched these guys get shot, and that everybody was telling him we're up there signaling for help. Their son gets ripped out and pulled away. Griselda gets put, and it was like you just saw all this great character development, emotion, and it was all done. You had the scene where her going out into the DZ dead zone. DMZ, yeah, but I think they're calling it the DZ or ZD zombie. No, DZ dead zone, I think. But anyway, whatever. DMZ is the traditional term, demilitarized zone, and the music in that and the flies, you remember, and the mirroring images throughout the whole episode. There was like nothing of that.
Right.
There was nothing of that in this episode, and I was like, wait a minute. That's why I went and looked at who, if the same director, I would think there would be, but I guess not, because I guess a lot of that has to do with the writer, and how they wrote it, because it was a different writer, and that's disappointing. I like, it started, the first time I ever experienced it was with Babylon 5, was the first show that I ever experienced where it was a weekly series that was written by different people. Straczynski created that show and wrote a great majority of the episodes, but he would bring in guest writers, like who's the comic book writer that wrote the Hulk for so many years?
David.
Peter David. He wrote a bunch of episodes. The guy that wrote Sandman.
Gaiman.
Gaiman. He wrote some episodes, and those were cool, but they always stayed consistent and everything else. But that was the first introduction to it. And sometimes they were good, sometimes they weren't, et cetera, et cetera. Then with Walking Dead, you've got a different director and a different writer almost every episode. And it's kind of and that's kind of the format that they've picked, and it has. I think it has some good points and some bad points, maybe even more good than bad. And so they're doing it here, but when it doesn't work bad, in my opinion. And this is an example of that, because one writer was doing one thing that I loved and with an episode, and then the next week's episode, completely different in terms of style, presentation, music, sound, photography, visualization, metaphors, everything. And I was just like, wow, disappointing.
Yeah.
And I hate to rag, because again, I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to see the finale. I want to see what happens. And I'm loving the show, but I think I just was so pleased with where it was going last week. It made this week so much more difficult.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be one of those podcasters that just spends the whole podcast ripping apart a show. It's like
like we did.
Yeah, well, if that starts to become consistent, then we should stop doing.
No, then we'll just stop watching the show.
Yeah, we'll stop doing Fear because to me that's the point. I mean, if you don't like a show, then you shouldn't podcast about it. Not that you should always be positive about it. You should,
Well, we'll see. Like we've got the finale coming, so we'll see. We'll see how they wrap this up. And Strand is clearly.
But we won't see. But we won't see any more again until summer, right?
So right. We're gonna have our work cut out for us because they're basically gonna be doing Walking Dead year round now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What was your ugly?
My ugly on this episode can only be Coleman Domingo as Victor Strand. He was just amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to know. I want to know. I want to know what his background is. I want to know how he plays into the rest of the storyline. He's clearly somebody. I can't remember who gave the interview, but said that he's going to be he'll definitely be a character in season 2. Well,
he's going to end up being with Nick.
Yeah.
He's going to end up being with Nick, and they're gonna come to try and get Nick, and they're not going to be there or whatever. You're going to have 2 storylines. I hope that's what they're going to do with it. I agree. He was my ugly as well. I thought he was fantastic. He's just one of those actors that, the minute they start to speak, you can't take your eyes off of them,
I know.
And that was awesome. And then also with just a small amount of dialogue, which is also the writing, and here I'm being critical of the writing, but the writing for that dialogue was amazing because in just a few seconds, he took that guy's life and just shredded it in a blender and sent him walking. You know what I mean? And that was wild to watch. It's not clear to me, initially when you saw him do that, part of me was like, oh man, this guy's a bad guy. You know what I mean? But then how he handles the situation with Nick, it's not as cut and dry. You know what I mean? He's certainly, setting it up so that he can manipulate him and control him and use him for whatever reasons. He's got ulterior motives, but he doesn't seem like he's evil to be evil. He seems to me to be kind of like a Negan type character from the comic, where he's super smart and ruthless, but has no humanity. He's just doing what he thinks he has to do to get the job done. You know what I mean? To survive and to, he's not doing it because he gets any kick out of it. You know what I mean? Necessarily, but I don't know if he's pathological, but he just, he definitely is a smart manipulator. You know what I mean? But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
Although I have to wonder why or how, if society is falling apart and we're at this point where we are, cufflinks still have value?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, and I wasn't gonna go here, but since you brought it up, I mean, they had him dressed like a '70s black exploitation movie or something, right? I mean, he looked like Shaft or something, and I was like, we're finally getting a black, or an African American character introduced to the show. And he's got to be kind of stereotypical.
And he's a stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what the hell? What the hell?
Well, he did live until the end of the episode, so maybe they could kill him by the end of the season.
I mean, and I wouldn't have a problem with that if they had introduced, multiple characters during the 5 episodes that were straight up good people or part of the crew, and didn't kill him off right away. But to have the one, be kind of stereotypical, that was a little bit disappointing. So, but yeah, but he his performance was just spectacular. So, anxious to see him have more. And I hope they keep him gray, like they were doing with Daniel. Right. Daniel to me is no longer gray. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so interesting.
All right. So a couple things I just happened to think of. We had gotten a a link to AMC had sent out a press packet that contained a link to the pilot of the first episode of this new season of The Walking Dead. I reached out to them to hook up with it. I have not gotten it so that Kirk and I could see it, but basically the point is that people listening to the show may see some reviews going up of The Walking Dead, the first episode of this new season. I think they've been embargoed until tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first, right? So
Yes.
Either tomorrow or Friday they've been embargoed till, which is a week early. So you'll probably see around the internet, you'll probably start seeing reviews of the first episode. So just be aware of.
Yeah, don't get yourself spoiled.
And then one of the other things is I noticed that there was some buzz going around. Did you see the buzz going around the internet that a casting call went out for a character called Oren?
No, but it sounds. No, you know what? I did. I didn't hear the name, but I heard and I read the description, and it sounds just like Negan.
Yeah. So there's speculation that Negan's going to appear at the end of
season 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that would make sense because they definitely are bringing Jesus into it, or Jesus. I don't know whichever way you want to pronounce it, but
probably Jesus.
Probably Jesus. So they're bringing him into it, and he's been casted, and we've actually seen pictures from the set with him. So, and I think that's good because my fear is they were going to bring Negan in before they, established the wider community. And it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like they're going to, bring him in or bring in Jesus and then have him, introduce them to the wider community and the hilltop and all that stuff and start that storyline and then have them bring in Negan at the end. So that makes sense to me.
All right. So we have some mail to read.
Yeah. First up was a letter you were going to read from Christine.
All right. So Christine said, here are my thoughts.
This is on Cobalt.
Yes. Good. The complexity of the soldiers. For once, they weren't portrayed as completely incompetent or evil. Instead, we saw real men, some boys, exhausted, trying to hold it together, and wanting to be with their families. Were we to assume that the Guard committed mutiny against Lieutenant Moyer? Yeah, I think it's not a mutiny. It's called fragging when you kill your superior officer. And I think, I think they did it.
Yeah, they did it too.
But they did leave it ambiguous because there was.
And I agree with her point. I don't think we went over it much, but I thought there was a good job in this episode showing the exhaustion, the frayed nerves, the snippy comments. What else I liked? Even though I didn't like the scene where they took Travis out and tried to make him shoot or the commander took him on and tried to make him shoot, but how the other soldiers tried to intervene. Mm-hmm. Like that captain guy that I now want to follow to San Diego, he was like, come on, let him go. He doesn't have to do it. Don't let him do, and they're like, no, he's got to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then the other guys were like, yeah, don't worry about it here, stay in the truck. They seemed like they were concerned about him. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I thought that I agree with her.
But the thing is that, again, nitpicky because I'm a geek like this, but that was a 50 caliber sniper rifle. You put a civilian behind it like you did where you put your eyeball right up to the scope. That thing's got a nice little kick to it.
Yeah.
That scope would have gone right through his head.
It was pretty cool, though, when they go, open your mouth.
Yeah.
He's like, what? And they're like, well, you don't. It'll like the compression will blow a hole in your back head.
All right, back to Christine. She said, Daniel, he's quickly growing to be my favorite character. They worked his history in well. If any other character did what he did to the soldier in this episode, it'd be ludicrous. Remember the hour-long debate in season 2 of The Walking Dead over what to do with Randall? You know what? Christine, you make me think of another point. And this is, again...
Good letter, Christine.
This is one of the things that I forgot to mention, is that they capture the soldier. I can't remember his name. I always remember the actor's name. They capture Sean Hatosi, and they've got him downstairs. They've had him for how long? And they knew that he went off with Ophelia. when are his boys going to come look for him? Like, if you're AWOL for a significant amount of time, someone's going to come looking for you. If for no other reason, just to make sure that, you relieve somebody who's on duty, and if it's well known that you're banging this broad and you should be standing duty when we've all been up for 50 hours, I'm going to come find your ass and drag you back out. I don't care what, state of undress you're in. So, but the fact that nobody came looking for him was a little, was, again, just...
Yep.
All right, Christine's bad. The lack of walkers. I am not the type of viewer that needs the gore. However, in this episode, they had a great opportunity to show an awesome military versus walkers fight. After last week's 9-day jump skipping the fall of LA, I'm beginning to feel cheated. I understand that they were trying to show us Travis's perspective, but to me it just screamed, we don't have the budget.
Yeah, I agree with her completely.
They better make up for it next week after teasing us with an entire stadium full of walkers.
Yeah.
Ugly was Strand. The Idris Elba look-alike had a perfect combination of suave and dangerous. I'll be interested to see how he fares once he realizes money and fancy watches don't have worth in this new world, though something tells me he's cunning enough to adapt. Walker Kill of the Week, the three-pointer by default, and Headshots was 4 out of 5. Keep up the great work, guys. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. Great letter. What's the three-pointer? Is that Kimberly?
That's there was only.
Were they saying you get 3 points if you hit her or something? I don't remember.
I thought. Did they give points for different? Although a 50 caliber round hitting her in the head.
Yeah, that head would have been at that range, especially. It would have been like a dust. It would have been.
Oh, it'd be
aerosol.
It'd be like Gallagher on a watermelon. Yes. And you can actually YouTube 50 caliber headshots.
No, thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Laura Willie Swink wrote, good episode. These last couple have been improving, I feel. Jeff, I do agree with you that it's a bit lazy to make the military the bad guys in a post-apocalyptic scenario, and it's been done before. But I think that the precedent had already been set up in the original show that the military was not on our side. We saw soldiers shooting innocent civilians when Shane goes to visit Rick in the hospital, and they later napalm downtown Atlanta. We did see some more empathetic soldiers in this episode, even a few dissenters. In fact, I half think that the Sergeant Moyer was a victim of mutiny rather than a Walker attack. I think I think she makes a point, but I think the thing about what we saw in the original series was that things were already that was even further. Even though that's roughly the time frame that this is taking place in the time frame he's in the coma, we don't know exactly where that. This could be right at the beginning of when he's in the coma. Mm-hmm. He's in the coma for like a month, I guess, 4 weeks, I think. And this has been 9 days. So if it started right after he went into the coma, then we're only week 2 of him being in the coma. When Shane goes to see him, I don't know. Maybe that was week 3, week 4. I don't know. So things may have been even more crazy by that point. Anyway, she goes on to say, speaking of victims, that was quite a flip of the script to find out about Daniel's character. Where we thought from the last episode that Daniel was a victim of tyranny, we find out this episode that he is actually the tyranny of evil men. Perhaps we will find out later that he's trying really hard to be the shepherd. Props, guys, if you get the reference. I don't think we get it.
Really, like, no, you go. No, you go.
Perhaps we'll find out later that he's trying really hard to be the shepherd. Props, guys, if you get the reference. Would that be Herschel? I don't know. The shepherd. Who was the shepherd in the main show? Oh, the governor? Was the governor the shepherd? Did he make a reference to being the shepherd? I think he might have. Laura, I don't know. You have to let us know if we hit it with those two, or if we're like out in La La Land. My one bad, even though I liked the writing of the scene and Ruben Blades killed it, was the torture scene. I did not believe the soldier being tortured. I feel he had no reason to withhold that information and nothing to protect in the way of a family. He didn't even look like he was in that much distress from having his skin peeled off, but still liked the episode and will give it 5 gold cufflings. I love how people come up with these cool. Oh, what was Christine's? Was she did headshots. That's our standard ones. But somebody did another one. What was the cufflinks? There was another.
Oh, was it Gary Dombrowski went with straight razors?
Yeah, that was great. just for the fact that she'd give it 5 gold cufflinks just for the fact that it featured one of my favorite Jane's Addiction songs. That seriously made the show for me. Where was that?
When the kids were destroying the house.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which is really stupid when you think about it. I mean, it's like I listened to Justin and Kelly and the Walking Naked pods. They do a real quick cast the night of the episode, and then they come back a day or two later and do a full cast. But they're living in this little tiny house with 2 families. You know what I mean? 3 families really, because you got Chris and his mom, although she's not there now, right? All jammed in their shitty little house, right? This is like some big mansion where the people weren't there. Freaking move into that house,
right?
You know what I mean? Instead of trashing it, you know what I mean? But anyway, I thought they would call laughing about that. Gary Dombrowski wrote in, the episode opens with us getting the Los Angeles version of the Guantanamo Bay prison where anyone making trouble in the safe zones are taken. Nick and neighbor Doug Thompson are in there together with the smooth-talking character Strand. He manages to make Doug flake out more than he already has. I didn't quite understand the purpose of this. I think we saw the end of the line for Doug at this point. Strand manages to make a deal by giving a soldier a pair of gold cufflinks in exchange for not taking Nick away without Mommy's medicine. Nicky is going through serious withdrawal and would have no doubt joined Doug if not for his new friend's intervention.
Hold on a second. I just want to pause you right there. But is he really going through withdrawal? He's sitting there with that's
right. All over the place.
He doesn't have the shakes. He's not
he wasn't doing it very.
He's just sitting there with puppy dog eyes, looking up at Strand when Strand sits down next to him. I mean, is he really going through withdrawal?
I guess a limited version, a puke version. Travis talks Myers into taking him to where Dr. Exner and the others are taken. I did notice Moyers referred to the walkers as skin bags. That was kind of funny. The scene where Moyers stops the Humvee so they can take out a walker seems out of place. Moyers wants Travis to shoot the walker, but he's unable to do it. Then they lose Moyers when they stop a second time to help out a patrol overrun by walkers. I can't help but think Moyers was fragged by the soldiers he was with. Everyone pretty much agrees that that's what happened. What does this tell us about Travis that we didn't already know? The romp that Alicia and Chris have in an empty house playing dress up and trashing the place seemed like filler. Looking for food and guns would have made more sense, kids. That's true. Daniel's interrogation of Ad. I was just thinking because you mention all the time about how like the neighbors would be organizing and stuff. Mm-hmm. I would think too that you'd start to have neighbors fighting with each other.
Oh yeah.
You took that. You came in my house and you took our water, and I did not. Boom! I got this gun. I had it hidden under my bed. Boom! You know what I mean? And then you can have a zombie outbreak inside.
Oh, if anything, the National Guard should be like, get us the hell out of here because y'all are nuts, and we don't want to get in the middle of you guys.
Let's see. Daniel's interrogation of Adams was both disturbing and in some cases poorly written. I must have missed the part where Adams begged, cried, and screamed out in pain during the process.
Yeah.
It was really true.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like kind of like pleading with the guy, no, you don't have to do this, and then he peels off the thing and you see his bloody arms or whatever, and then they cut, and then they come back and he's basically fine, and he's saying
it seriously was the worst torture scene ever because like nothing was going on. What'd you give him, an Indian rope burn? I mean...
at least we're given the origin story of Mr. Salazar's fillet of forearm. Thank you. We did find out that the code word cobalt is the command for the soldiers to evacuate the area the next morning. Unfortunately, that doesn't include civilians. They're to be humanely terminated. It's going to be interesting to see what Daniel does next, seeing that Griselda has died following the amputation of her foot. The episode ended with Daniel standing outside an arena where thousands of walkers are locked up. It's amazing how he was able to make his way there at night, miles from the safe zone. It's true. It's like, what the heck? Plus, somebody pointed out, maybe it's in the letter coming up, but all the lights were on. All the street lamps were on.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, hello, But anyway, again, the military is portrayed negatively, victimizing those they would be protecting. I give this episode 3 straight razors. So, good letter.
All right. So, 3 straight razors from him. Thomas Reese writes in and says, best episode of the season! ! I'm actually getting excited now that I see what the show's capable of. I'm giving Cobalt 4.5 cubic zirconia cufflinks. Good Strand. I've never seen this guy in anything before, but man, he's good. Hope they bring him on as a regular because he'd bring a lot to the show. Sorry, Doug. Don't be such a buzzkill next time. Daniel Salazar is my hero. He is one of the best things about Fear, and every week he gets better and better. I have a theory. After the Salvadoran War, Daniel came to the U.S. and became an L.A. detective. In a mildly futuristic 1997, he worked alongside Danny Glover and Bill Paxton and helped kill an alien. Predator 2 reference. Check. Get it? If you ever saw Predator 2?
Yeah.
Lieutenant Moyers is dead, or is he? I could definitely see him coming back in later episodes as an even bigger douche. Bads were Alicia and Chris. Alicia and Chris. Travis is really getting annoying. He has to do something before we start rooting for his death. Get it together, brother. It feels like there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to see. I think they should have just gone with a full 16 episodes for the first season. All this crazy stuff happened with army patrols, a perimeter being set up, hospital drama, firefights, the civilian stadium, etc. They should have shown us more of that stuff and less Monopoly and garden mazes. My ugly goes to Daniel, Ophelia, and Adam's forearm. I'm pretty sure Adams told Daniel everything before he even started cutting, and he still skinned his freaking arm. I guess Daniel reads Shakespeare too. Kill of the week goes to Liza and Griselda. She better hope Daniel misplaces those razors. Character of the week, Strand predictions. Tobias is somewhere in that hospital and owes Strand a watch. Yeah, where is Tobias?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him until next season. My guess is they'll be out on the road and they'll run into each other or something.
Let's see. James Chapman, who, as we've been warned by Diane Maythorne, is Diane's brother-in-law. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about last night's episode. First off, it was one of my favorite episodes. I'm starting to care about some of the characters. Finally. And the story is starting to move. It's been a little slow to ramp up, but I have hopes it will get there for us. The good, I'm starting to believe the characters. They are starting to become someone that you'll feel bad if they die. The bad, it's still moving a little too slow. Character and story development are well and good, but you've got to keep the audience hooked. Maybe they are planning for people binge watching it. If I didn't have to wait a week between episodes and pick it up, takes off after episode 6, for example, then maybe it will have the legs to last a few seasons. Right now, I'm afraid it's going to peter out because they lose their audience. The ugly, there were a couple of continuity errors that pulled me out of the show. When Daniel is, quote, talking to the soldier and getting the story about the auditorium, there is a bandage on his arm that is soaked through with blood. When Travis rushes into the room seconds later, the soldier's arm is uncovered again. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
And when Daniel goes to investigate the auditorium, all the sidewalk lights and parking lights and every other light in the area is on, like you just said.
Right, this is where I got that from.
But they're going through blackouts at the house. It doesn't make sense. I'll still give it 4 out of 5. But I feel the show is getting better. And then following on with Diane, she says, her good is Ruben Blades is total badass. I'm really happy to see an actor of his caliber get some attention, even if he is scary as hell. The bad, I'm curious and will continue to watch because I know this is heading toward a giant train wreck, but Ruben Blades aside, I can honestly say I don't give a damn about a single one of these characters as people. Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
In fact, so far, the only person I've consistently liked is Tobias. I agree with Melissa Hutchison over at Fear the Walking Dead cast. The ugly, I don't get that reference. Did you know that one? Fear the Walking Dead cast about...
that Melissa Hutchinson is the... Jason and Karen do the Walking Dead cast, but for Fear, he's got 2 different people that host with him. And Melissa Hutchinson is one of them. She's actually the voice actress for the Walking Dead game. The young girl who's kind of the main character in that Telltale games, The Walking Dead, and she's on, and they have a good. You should listen to that. It's a great cast about Fear. They're very positive for the most part.
Okay. Let's see. Diane's the ugly. I too hate the cardboard cutout bad guys that the military have become by and large. It would be more realistic to portray just generally how awful human beings become in a crisis, military affiliation aside. The good ugly. WTF is up with the guy to whom Nick is now indebted. I don't like him either, but at least he has promised as a thoroughly evil individual.
Yeah, and that again, that was testimony to his great performance. I couldn't take my eyes off him, but I didn't like him. You know what I mean? He gave me the
I wouldn't go in a dark alley with them.
But, no way. The way he just took Doug apart. It seemed almost like he was relishing this situation. Like, you know what I mean? Like this new paradigm is going to be awesome for him.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean?
he's just a guy who just, you can't. He takes lemons and turns them into lemonade. He
Yeah.
just finds a way.
Marnell Steiner posted up, is it sick that I can't wait for people to stop being neighborly and start acting like the animals we all know they would be when the rations stop and the lights go out? Yeah, I think we agree with you there, Marnell.
Yeah, I responded to her saying that, I don't think it's sick. I think it's realistic. I mean, and that's the thing that's missing from this show is
well, either
realism.
of two things would happen. Either they would organize, like you've suggested before, or they would start coming apart and going at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Either of those two things. No one's going to sit there and just merrily go about their day like nothing's going on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, but this episode, even though I struggled with it, a lot of people responded to it. A lot of people posted about it. It seemed like it hit a chord.
All right then. So we got one more episode next week, and then the main event will start the following week.
Yeah, and don't forget, next week we'll have guest podcasters with us from The Walking Naked, Justin and Kelly, and then we will also do a brief discussion about the trailer for the new season 6 of The Walking Dead, and what our predictions would be and guesses for that.
And since we actually had to set a time with the guests, right. We're actually going to be doing. We know we are going to be doing this on Tuesday night.
Well, I think so. we know we're going to be doing it at 8:00. And hopefully it'll be Tuesday night.
So it's been...
should be up earlier, which will be good. You can reach us at our Facebook page, which is, what's the address on that?
Biters, The Walking Dead Podcast.
Or you can email us at biterspodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at Biters Podcast. Is that right? Yep. And then also Jeff tweets at @jmarzik, and I tweet at BatmanKM. Those are the best ways to get in touch with us. A reminder again that we'll be at New York Comic Con this next weekend, the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. We'll have Z-Girl and the Four Tigers with us, as well as prints of my Walking Dead tribute art. So if you want to pick up some of those, that would be the place to do it. We appreciate everybody listening, and we hope next week is going to be a finale to end all finales.
Well, hopefully it's a finale.
At least better than this week.
I'm just hoping for a finale that basically, when I get done, I go, okay, I gotta know, I gotta come back for season 2. I gotta know.
What? Let's do it, brother. Let's get some predictions here. Come on. First of all, what you think we're going to get any deaths? Anybody going to die?
Well, hold on a second. We got to tie the airplane into this, right? We got to tie the
airplane. No, the airplane's going to take place during the regular show.
No. But a character from that will tie into this.
Yes, but we're not going to see anything about that in the finale. Is my understanding. It's like a separate side story that's going to be shown in 1 minute, 2 minute increments during the season for season 6 of the main show.
Well, look, if we know, if you have a brain in your head and you know that basically you're getting terminated tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and let's see, it was dark outside, so it's 11 o'clock at night, we'll say it's midnight. You got 9 hours. The military's gone. We saw them leaving, right? We got 9 hours to get the hell out of Dodge.
So who's doing the termination if the military's gone?
Well, I think the military's pulling out, and it's just, drones or, there's a theory.
Maybe they're going to bomb it.
Well, there's a theory about what cobalt stands for. And you can do a wiki search. A cobalt bomb is basically like a nuclear bomb that from the 40s and 50s. Although according to that page, it says that they never really made one. But so it could be they could just nuke it, which again just defies all logic why you would drop a nuke on U.S. soil. But okay.
If you feel like you've lost an entire city and it's filled with nothing but the dead, I could see people saying, you know what, we need to nuke it to try and neutralize those zombies.
But that's the thing, is that we're in a position. That's, it's a really good question that you asked what predictions are, because what the stage is set now. The military's left. And clearly, nobody cares about Adams, who's been tortured in the house. So they've left, or they're on their way to leave. The people now can leave at will. So, like you said, it's been foreshadowed that whole arena filled with dead, with walkers is going to get opened. But to what end? Like the military bad guy, he's dead.
All I can think of is that they come up with a plan to preoccupy the military and cause them to not be able to focus on killing the townspeople. You know what I mean? So and the plan is to release the zombies, and then everybody's going to scatter so that they have some cover in order to kind of like get out of Dodge.
So the plan is,
I don't know.
Cobalt is, instead of doing the safe thing, which is drop a bomb on the place and just wipe it out, we're going to go door to door.
Right.
And, and I didn't say it earlier, but I thought it was ridiculous that this squad of soldiers goes into this building and gets overrun by, by walkers. One side's got the weapons, one side doesn't. So basically, they're
remember the scene in Walking Dead season 4 when the fences are finally starting to fall and there's hordes and hordes of zombies. I mean, there had to be 500-600 of them coming through that gated area or that alleyway. Remember?
Yep.
And Carl and Rick, just the two of them, with 2 M16s, take out that entire horde.
Yeah.
And here you've got a platoon of military coming to the aid of another platoon of military and maybe a half a dozen walkers that we can see. And they can't kill them all. And they've got grenades and machine guns and 50 caliber and everything.
So, yeah. So, okay. So now I'm concerned about stupidity in next episode.
Yeah. I like the idea of the nuke. The problem with that, of course, is if they nuke that area, first of all, they'd have to be 50 miles away for it to not impact them, right? Something like that, 50 miles radius, and then that makes LA basically uninhabitable.
Right.
It'll be radioactive, so that's not going to happen. They're not going to do that.
I think it's going to be house to house.
Yeah, I think it's going to be house to house, which is retarded because as you start doing it, you would have people starting to rebel. How would you do that in a humane way unless you dragged everybody out under the auspices of something else and then gunned them down? But yeah, I think they're going to come up with some plan. First of all, we thought the rescue was coming this week.
Right.
They didn't even try to rescue. Travis didn't even get there with the help of the soldiers. I mean, nobody made it there. So the rescue is going to have to be next week.
Well,
right?
Daniel's got to find out what happened.
Yeah, he's got to find out.
Find Griselda.
So they got to get to that. They got to get to that facility.
Yeah. But the military has a 9-hour head start on them on the evacuation, so it shouldn't be a problem.
So maybe what they'll do is, with their knowledge, they'll bolt. But they're going to go to this facility and they're going to have the soldier guy, Mr. No Forearm, take them there so that they can go try to rescue Nick and Griselda. And they leave the houses so they're not there at 9 o'clock in the morning for whatever happens. And then they get down there, and of course it becomes a nightmare scene, and maybe somehow the zombies get loose, and that's the cliffhanger, So they're downtown, in the middle of downtown LA or wherever in this facility, and there's 2,000 zombies outside. I could see that. I could see that happening. I think they're going to have some deaths. I think you're going to have some people die. My guess is it might be the soldier with the bloody forearm who may sacrifice himself for Ophelia. Mm-hmm. I think it might be the doctor. I don't think it'll be any regular cast, although it would be awesome if they had like Chris get killed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Somebody significant, because something has to kick Travis in the teeth. You know what I mean? So,
all right. Well, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, if people think of it, go on the Facebook page.
Yeah, leave your predictions.
Yeah, let's hear your predictions. What do you think is going to happen? Lord knows they'll be better than ours, and probably a lot more accurate.
Laura will swink. I'm calling you out. I know you got an idea or two.
That's right.
All right. Well, it's been almost an hour and 45 minutes. So,
Christ.
Yeah.
Man, we're a couple of gas bags, man. I'm telling you. I thought this was going to be a short one because I was like, I just didn't have that much to talk about.
Yeah, I'm surprised they let you stay up this late at the nursing home.
Yeah, it's good. It's way past, I had to slip a Mickey to the guard.
All right. We will talk to everybody next week.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for listening, and we will check you out in a week.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.